So, good evening, everyone. Today is the second Facebook Live session that we are having. We have, as I said in the previous Facebook Live session, we are doing this so that we can reconnect with our patients. The main reason is that this is a very scary time. There are a lot of infections going around. There is a lot of infected due to COVID-19. There are a lot of deaths. So I can understand that all of them, everybody will be scared. But in addition to that, our patients are a bit more scared because they feel that they are at higher risk because they are on medications which might reduce their immunity. So first of all, I'd like to, just as I reassured them during the first Facebook Live, I would like to reassure all patients that till now, there is no data or no indication that patients with rheumatological disorders or patients with arthritis are at higher risk of developing COVID-19. Okay, so we are really not sure why, but there are other situations. For example, if a person is obese, that is overweight, if a person has hypertension, if the person is greater than 65 years of age, then they are at higher risk of developing COVID-19, and they're also a higher risk of developing complications, severe, serious complications due to COVID-19. But for some reason, we don't know as of yet. At least till now, there is no indication that arthritis patients or patients with rheumatology patients who are on arthritis medications are at increased risk. So don't be worried. Please continue your medications. If you're not able to get your medications, or if you're having problems with respect to your disease, or if you're not able to get blood tests done, please reach out to us. We are there to help you out. We can either arrange for the same, or we can guide you to the nearest place where you can get these things done. Okay, so with that out of the way, we are inviting comments from all of you as well as questions. So today we have two specialists who are going to help us answer, who are going to talk to our patients, talk to you, that is, and also help answer several of your doubts. So one is Dr. Vikram. Dr. Vikram is a rheumatologist and clinical immunologist. He has done his MBBS from Bangalore Medical College and MD from Jaipur, and then finished rheumatology and clinical immunology training from JIPMER in Pondicherry. So welcome, Dr. Vikram.
Thank you, Dr. Sharath, for having me, and definitely an important topic in these times which we need to discuss, with a lot of information, misinformation in this infodemic of COVID. We would like to try to make it throw some light on what are the important things which people need to know about immunity.
Yes, Dr. Vikram will be teaching or interacting with the patients, and as well as telling them about immunity myths and truths. In addition to that, we have Ms. Nishat. She is our specialist dietitian. So she's done BSc in dietetics and nutrition. So she'll be teaching about, she'll be telling us about the role of diet specifically with respect to immunity, but then I'm sure many arthritis patients have a lot of doubts with respect to diet and arthritis, and hopefully Ms. Nishat will be able to answer those as well. Welcome, Ms. Nishat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the introduction, and hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope, like how sir said, we'll be able to help you out with all your doubts and queries. So please stay tuned.
Okay, so I'm handing over to Vikram, Dr. Vikram, to start off the talk.
Yeah, actually, the first and foremost thing in which we are coming across nowadays, especially in what lot of information in the media about boosting your immunity. So I just thought that I will just start off with understand what is this concept of immunity. People have this misconception what immunity is, that just like go to a gym and you do exercise and you build your immunity. It's not that simple. So our immune system is a very, very complex system, just like you have a cardiovascular system or a gastrointestinal system. So the immune system has various compartments. You can compare, just for a comparison, an analogy, the immune system to the army, actually. So we have our army, which is at the borders, which is protecting us from outside infiltrators. Similarly, our immune system is protecting us from outside infections. And this is active 24/7, 365 days, protecting us from infections like bacteria, virus, fungi, etc. And you will be surprised that there are bacteria, viruses attacking us every day, every minute. And our immune system is protecting us from this. And very rarely when this fails, only do we get infections. Okay. And this immune system, just to set the platform, has different parts. We have a first line of defense, just like you have the infantry or the army soldiers patrolling the border. You have your first line of defense called as innate immunity, where it has very few armamentarium. It can respond in a particular way, but it responds quickly, the fastest to respond. And it is enough for most of our infections. It forms a barrier for most of our infections. Even the skin, the lining of our nose, or the lining of our stomach also acts as a barrier, the first line of defense, along with certain specialized cells, which we call as dendritic cells and macrophages, etc., which form the first line of defense, and they're the first to come in response to any infection. Then you have an advanced second line of defense, which we call as adaptive immunity. So the name suggests that it adapts to the infection. And the specialized part of this is that it has memory, and we know that the viruses, etc., can change. That is why it keeps on causing a lot of havoc. Especially this virus, this COVID, is a novel coronavirus. That is, we were not exposed to this previously. That is why most of us have got the infections, and many have died because of the infection, because we never had immunity against this virus. The adaptive immune system, when it is exposed to a certain infection, not only responds to that, but also has memory. That means if the infection comes a second time, it is already ready with the armamentarium to negate the infection. So the problem with this virus, that is the novel coronavirus, has been that it is a novel infection. The body's immune system was not exposed to it. So that is about the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. So the concept of boosting the immunity is oversimplification, actually. We just cannot boost your immunity just by taking a particular thing or eating a particular substance, because it is very, very complex, and it depends on a lot of different factors. I think we'll discuss with that once we come to the questions, if there are any. So this is about the basics of immunity. What is the immune system? What is innate immunity? What is adaptive immunity? And how our body responds to any infection. To take specifically for this virus, so how a body responds to virus, because we are in this pandemic with the coronavirus. So when the virus enters the body, it's more usually through the respiratory tract. It enters into the cell, and it divides inside the cell, and it infects other cells. And the first response, as I said, is the innate immunity, where certain cells called as natural killer cells attack the virus infected cells. Also, there are certain proteins released called as interferons, which actually prevent the virus from affecting the healthier cells. So this is the first line of defense, which occurs within a few hours to days, actually. So this is the innate immunity. But subsequently, it activates the adaptive immunity, where the specialized cells, actually the B cells, that is known as the B cells and the T cells. These are specialized cells, actually, which come in later on. And once they know that the virus has infected the body, it produces something called as antibodies, and to try to negate the virus. And there are something called as T cells, which are killer T cells, which kills the cells which are infected with the virus. So this takes time. This occurs after a couple of weeks, actually. That is why initially, when you have, it may take some time for the symptoms to appear, because the immune system gets activated, and then the symptoms occur because of the activation of immune system, actually. The fever which is produced, the body pain, the myalgia which occurs. These are all symptoms which happen because the immune system has got activated, and is actually a way of the bodies to try to contain the virus. The fever actually tries to increase the body temperature. The fatigue actually allows us to take rest. Most of the energy is utilized in containing the virus. So this is how the body responds to the virus. This is how the immune system attacks the virus and tries to contain it. So next, any questions, Sharath, so far? I'm not, you're not audible, Sharath?
Yeah, so far no questions, Vikram. So if anybody has any questions, then please do feel free to ask, because this is the time that you can ask any questions that you have. So one patient has asked a question. Okay, so Dr. Vikram, the person is asking that her family, she's been advised to take multivitamin tablets for some time because she feels that she's prone to Raynaud's. So she's asking, is it compulsory to take multivitamins? And in active positive cases, because in her area there are a lot of active positive cases. So she's asking, she's very scared because there are a lot of active positive cases in her area. And also she's asking whether it is compulsory to take vitamins. So what would your answer be to?
Yes, yeah, this is a very good question. So there is active cases in the locality and you also want to protect yourself. So what best can we do at home, and can taking vitamins help us? So as I said, the immune system is very complex. It needs obviously energy, it needs minerals to function effectively. However, what studies have shown is that in a healthy individual who's taking a healthy, balanced diet, the role of vitamins, except probably for vitamin D, in promoting the immune system is not very, very effective. So vitamin D definitely is known to help in promoting or help activating the immune system. So vitamin D is definitely proven to be effective. Other vitamins like vitamin C was considered, but definitely there is not much data. So as long as nothing is causing harm, it may be taken, but however, there is not much of data. In a healthy individual who's healthy, is eating well, is unlikely to be very deficient in vitamins. And taking vitamins unnecessarily is just not going to, because the body will not absorb it and it will be just passed in your urine. So it may not be very useful unless you are deficient in a particular vitamin. But yes, vitamin D, supplementation of vitamin D, if you are deficient, will definitely help in the immune system.
So with respect to the lot of positive cases being in your area and you being worried, so as I agree completely with Dr. Vikram that as such multivitamins are not very useful, except for vitamin D, not very useful to increase your immunity or to modify your immune system or help your immune system to fight against any kind of infection. The main thing that you can do is basically social distancing. So you have to always, if you go out of the house, stay 6 feet away from everyone. So social distancing is so effective that people say that if it was a medication, it would be called a miracle cure. In addition to that, the main way in which we develop coronavirus infection is if we touch something that somebody with coronavirus infection, if they've coughed on something or if they've touched something, and then we touch that, and then if we touch our eyes, nose and mouth. So just be careful, don't touch your eyes, nose and mouth. And even if you need to touch it, make sure that you wash your hands properly with water and soap for at least 20 seconds. So that's the main thing. So the next question, Vikram, Dr. Vikram, coming in from Ms. Hamza, she is asking that if patients are on immunosuppressive medication, is it fine if we get delayed for our eye checkup? Hamza, that is not relevant to the discussion as of now, but please, as of now, we would suggest that all of you continue your medications. Don't reduce your medications or don't stop your medications. If you have any doubts, please call our clinic and we will definitely help guide you as to what medication needs to be continued and what you can do if you're not able to get the medications. Dr. Vikram, Mr. Mahmood Museb is asking, so is there any role for HCQS in COVID? Because as a rheumatologist, you'll be well versed with its usage. So can you suggest what is the role for HCQS in COVID and with respect to immunity?
Yeah, this is Sharath, a burning question worldwide. So what is the role of hydroxychloroquine in the treatment of or prophylaxis of COVID-19? So we knew about hydroxychloroquine. It's a very old medication and we've been using as a rheumatologist in most of our autoimmune diseases. And we know, like in certain diseases like lupus, which they have to take lifelong, that it is also known to prevent infections and helped in increasing the lifespan. However, coming to coronavirus, there are basic studies, that is studies done in the lab, which have shown that hydroxychloroquine helps in stopping the virus in the cell. There are mechanisms by which it is known to act inside the cell, which has shown that it may be helpful in the lab studies. However, in the real life, see, there can be difference in what is seen in the lab, at the research level, and what happens in the practical life. So what has been shown so far, see, this is still early days in a pandemic. It's been a couple of months. So obviously, lot have bigger studies or studies have not, good data has not come so far, and we're still awaiting a lot of data. But what we know so far from whatever experience has been there in China as well as in the West and some studies is that so far patients those who are still on hydroxychloroquine, like most of the autoimmune patients, have still developed COVID infections. And some studies have also shown that those on hydroxychloroquine also had a longer stay on the ventilator. So again, these are very small studies. We really can't make any conclusion out of them right now. But so far, what the data is emerging that it may not be very, very helpful in preventing or treating hydroxychloroquine. But yes, in the labs, yes, it has shown that it could be beneficial. So we're still awaiting a lot of data. The house is still open. The national bodies have recommended, ICMR has recommended that healthcare personnel and immediate contacts can take. So probably a benefit of doubt in this may be given, but however, we are still not sure that it is useful. And the more data is probably suggesting that it may not be helpful. That is the answer right now. Actually, at this point of time, obviously it can change with time once we get more data.
So that is true. And as rheumatologists, the way we use HCQS, it is likely, it's considered a very mild medication and a slow acting medication. So for a disease like COVID-19, which is so severe and sudden, we don't know whether it will be as effective as people are hoping that it will be, but it might be proven wrong. But as of now, there is nothing to show that it is helpful. So there's one more person who's asking that, Dr. Vikram, what is the role for increased hydration to prevent viral infections?
Yes. Yeah, this is again, there are a lot of recommendations, especially even from the government. A lot of suggestions have been made that gargling or gargling with hot water or with honey and certain oils can be boost your immunity. But first of all, let me clear that probably we are not practitioners of alternative medications. But still, if you look at the mechanism, how it may work. So I just told you how the virus infects us. So the virus infects not only the throat, even inside the lung, the cells, the lining of the respiratory tract, enters into the cell. Okay, so once it enters into the cell, no amount of gargling or drinking hot water is probably going to make any difference. And also the concept that hot water will probably kill the virus is also probably not true, because it requires a very high temperature to destroy the viruses, even 60 to 70 degrees, which will not be possible. Your lining will be scalded. So it is unlikely that that it will help in any way. Yes, staying hydrated is good. It is important for us to have adequate hydration, because that keeps the body's metabolism going. So it is good to keep yourself hydrated. It is good to keep yourself healthy. But just taking hot water or gargling repeatedly, will it help to control or prevent virus? Unlikely to do. And also it gives you a false sense of satisfaction or security, rather that I have done this, so probably I'll not be affected and I'll just go outside. So I think it gives a false sense of security, which probably should not be done. So taking adequate hydration is very, very essential. Yes, agreed. But doing this sort of gargling, etc., may not help actually.
Yeah, in fact, increased hydration during viral infections is recommended during the infection. And the reason why it is recommended during infection is that there is a lot of heat generated during the viral infection. That's why we tend to get dehydrated. So that is why we recommend that during any viral infections, please take a lot of fluids. But as such, for prevention of viral infections, I don't think it is not of much use. And as Dr. Vikram said, the other fallacies or other myths he pointed out with respect to the same. There is one more question which is for Nishad, but I would request if Ms. Nishat is okay, I would request Dr. Vikram to first give his inputs, and then we can have Nishat also answer the same question. So Tilotama is asking that is there any particular food that can help in boosting immunity, because she's not able to get any vegetables right now because of the lockdown.
Yes. See, as I initially pointed out, the immune system is very complex. A certain food or certain thing alone will not be sufficient to improve your immunity. But yes, there are certain things. I will just not only talk about diet, but other things also, because we just take this as a starting point. So how to improve your immunity or keep your immunity well oiled? So I have made an acronym for this. Okay. So SAVED, SAVED. Okay. So S stands for sleep. So very, very essential to have adequate sleep, because we know that body's energy in the day is utilized for your mental and physical activity, but at night time it's the growth and the immune system which gets the energy. So taking good sleep is very, very essential. We know most of us would have experienced that if you don't sleep for a few days, after that you tend to get some cold, cough, etc. So it is because your immune system is down. So good sleep, that is the S. Second is A. A stands for avoiding stress. So stress produces some hormone called as cortisol, actually, so which actually dampens your immune system. So stress is not good for your immune system. So avoiding stress, will come to how mechanisms to avoid stress. So A stands for avoiding stress. V is actually the end, that is a vaccination. So how to boost your immunity is vaccination. For coronavirus, obviously, we'll have to wait for some time for vaccination to come. E is exercise. So very, very essential to improve your immunity is regular exercise, because uh, any exercise for that matter, do yoga, do walking. It doesn't have to be that you go to gym and lift 100 kgs. It's not required, but do any form of exercise. It's beneficial for immune system. And D is diet. That is the main thing, actually, which we'll come to. And I'll just put a few pointers, and obviously Nishat will take over. But diet, there is not a very, very strong relation with diet. Diet is essential, yes. Eat a healthy and balanced diet, okay? What things will help and what things are not to be taken. So what will help? Yes, a balanced diet which includes good amount of fruits and vegetables, okay, because they contain fiber, they contain antioxidants. That is number one. And omega-3 fatty acids is known maybe anti-inflammatory. So those food which contain omega-3 fatty acids, certain nuts, etc., may be useful. Fish, etc., may be useful. So these are useful. Fiber, antioxidants, as well as omega-3 fatty acids. Vitamin D, obviously either through supplementation or through natural vitamin D. So that is useful in diet. What to avoid? High salt, high content of salt is not useful, because we know that it can directly stimulate the immune system. So reducing your salt intake. And then what probably is a good thing to remember is eating God-made rather than man-made food. So avoiding processed food, westernized diet, which contains high glycemic index, more amount of salt, is not good for your immune system. It promotes inflammation. This is proven. So that is very, very essential. So these are the few pointers. And there is a role of probably intermittent fasting, but that is still a lot of research is still needed in that. So these are the basic takeaways. I think Nishat can throw us more light on this.
So Nishat, would you like to add something, please?
Okay. Hi, Tilotama, and thank you for the question. As doctor said, I mean, diet is one of the basic precautions to be taken to prevent the infection. It's not like it gives you superpowers or something, against the infection. As right now, we don't have much information about the viruses as well, like what works or what not. So we're just going with whatever information we already have, and we're just going with whatever works. So we're just staying positive with whatever it will work out or not. So since your question, if you're not having access to fresh vegetables, you can try for canned or frozen vegetables as well if you're accessible to it. If not, you can concentrate on whatever is available, like basic sources like pulses like dals, or whole grains like atta or rice, and if you have access to fruits, even better. If not, you can make freshly squeezed juices as well and store it, and you can have them. But only thing is you need to limit your salt and sugar intake. So if you're using canned vegetables, so make sure you wash it with lots of water to take away the salt. If not, I mean, if you're okay, then you can even include eggs and fish and chicken if it's available. But also plant sources like dals and paneer, milk, they are all sufficient. So for a temporary amount of time, you can supplement, unavailability of vegetables with all of these stuff. But make sure you keep trying and try to include vegetables like doctor said, like doctor mentioned, vitamin C and vitamin A are the major antioxidants or nutrients that are shown to work against improving our immunity. For example, like green leafy vegetables, or you can even grow your own vegetables if you have a small space with soil. Okay, so you can do that if you have access to seeds or anything. You can grow your own plants if you're okay. So that also helps. Okay, so yeah, so vegetables mainly like green leafy vegetables can be mint, it can be coriander, it can be methi or West fenugreek, it can be spinach. Okay, so all of these are very common. You can grow your own vegetables. Okay, so and then even raw mango is really good in vitamin C. So simple, very common fruits and vegetables will do the trick. You don't have to go for exotic or tropical fruits and vegetables and things that they only work. So yeah, that is according to your question. So, doctor, do you want me to continue with the topic or?
Yeah, I just want to add that in fact the government of Kerala have distributed seeds, vegetable seeds to everyone. Of course, it's very difficult in a city like Bangalore, but then if you do have some space where you can grow something, it's a very good idea. The government of Kerala is actively encouraging everyone to start growing their own vegetables. So especially fast growing vegetables, they are encouraging. So there's one more question for you, Nishat, where I think somebody is asking that, Vani is asking that she doesn't like taking lemon water because she develops throat irritation. So what are the other foods in which you can get vitamin C?
Vitamin C, yeah, vitamin C as you mentioned, it's not suitable for everyone. Okay, so you can even have guava. Guava is also rich in vitamin C. Green leafy vegetables are also like methi, spinach, amlan, and all sorts of things are also rich in vitamin C. Okay, so and then you can also add capsicum to your diet. That is also richest, like the very good source of vitamin C. So you don't have to depend only on lime water. So if you're okay, you can even use it as a seasoning, not to have lime water on its own.
Okay, so that is with respect to how you can increase vitamin C. But Dr. Vikram, you answered this question, but I would request you to answer it again. That with respect to vitamin C, is there any role where vitamin C can help increase your immunity and protect you against COVID-19 or other infections?
Yeah, see, vitamin C was thought to help to promote immunity. What studies have shown, what data has shown, people have done some Cochrane analysis, is that probably it does not. It probably does not. But still, things are. It's good to take a balanced diet. That is most essential. And as I said, most of us, if we take balanced diet, fruits, vegetables, cereals, proteins, I think we will get our supplement of vitamin C. As long as it doesn't do harm, you can take supplements. You can eat fruits which are rich in vitamin C. I don't think so that should be a problem. So answering your question, I think there's not much data, but yes, you can definitely take foods rich in vitamin D for whatever it is worth.
So, but again, I might seem like a broken record repeating it again and again, but I'd like to point out that more important than vitamin to protect yourself is social distancing. Don't touch your eyes, nose and mouth, and wash your hands. So that is the most important thing. And Vikram, we have two people who are, I think, fans of you. Shashidhar and Mohammad Musher. They've written, "We love Dr. Vikram. Best wishes." I agree with you, Shashidhar. I agree with you, Musher. Dr. Vikram.
Thank you. I love you too.
So then we have another question, not with respect to immunity, but with respect to rheumatoid arthritis. So this is to Nishat, I think. Nishat, can you answer that? Is flaxseed good for patients with rheumatoid arthritis?
Yeah, so flaxseed is really a good source of ALA, that is a type of omega-3 fatty acid. So as doctor mentioned, omega-3 has found to have anti-inflammatory properties that is like basically it reduces the inflammation in our body. Whereas the overactive immune system in our body just calms down. Okay, and then the symptoms get better. So that is the principle behind anti-inflammatory diet. So yeah, flax seeds do have anti-inflammatory properties. So you can include them. You can add them to the diet as a snack in roasted form or raw form. Or you can add it to your roti flour or dosa flour if you're okay. If you even add it to your salad as a topping. Okay, so you can, there are a lot of many other ways. For kids, you can make laddus with jaggery and other nuts and include flax seeds also and give it to the kids. Even you can. So if you're not, on a calorie deficit diet, so if you can, you need to contact a dietitian. So she will prepare a better plan for you with general guidelines.
Okay, so thanks, Nisha, for all of those suggestions. So since we have come on to the topic of rheumatoid arthritis, I would want to ask Dr. Vikram that in a patient with rheumatoid arthritis, what would be your answer if they say that, how do I increase my immunity?
Yes, the answer is again the same actually, which we discussed, how to improve. The rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune condition where the immune system is already active. It is probably reacting against your own self. Okay, so it's a chronic autoimmune condition. And but the problem with the rheumatoid arthritis is that if not treated, it can cause damage, and that damage actually predisposes to more infections. Actually, if you take, for example, a joint damage or a lung damage because of rheumatoid arthritis, actually makes it more susceptible to infection. Second thing is patients with arthritis are on medications to control the immune system, like initially with steroids or disease-modifying anti-rheumatic drugs or biologics or something called small molecules. And these medications are meant to control the overacting immune system, but also reduces the immune, especially in higher doses, try to sort of brings down the immune system, not to very great extent, but yes, to a mild extent. And the severity varies with the medication actually. And so with all patients, even before this COVID virus or pandemic came, we used to advise our patients on medications as well as biologics that there is a slightly increased risk of infections. And what people are advising now about social distancing and avoiding people with contact, we used to do that before also, Sharath. So we used to tell them that if avoid crowded places, avoid patients who have infection. If somebody has cold cough, probably don't get into contact with them. So we used to make those recommendations even before this pandemic, and this still stands good. That because if they are on a higher dose of immunosuppression, they would definitely require an additional social distancing, especially those on biologics. There are different recommendations saying that that's probably be shielded also. So yes, those with the arthritis, to way you increase your immunity would be the same thing: taking good rest, exercise, avoiding stress, as well as dietary, what we have discussed. So other than this, supplements like vitamin D. Other than this, there are no other extra recommendations to improve the immunity. We do obviously advise them vaccination, which is most important in our diseases, especially rheumatoid arthritis. All patients on immunosuppressive, all patients elderly, be more than 65, younger patients with the comorbidities and arthritis who are on medications, we definitely suggest them vaccination, which is available, that is influenza vaccination and pneumococcal vaccination. So all patients, unless there's any contraindication, we definitely advise them vaccination to improve your immunity, to prevent some common infections. So that would be, especially in the context of rheumatoid arthritis, one of the important suggestions other than healthy people would be to take vaccination.
So there are many people who have joined now. So I would request Dr. Vikram if he can tell his acronym. I found that very nice. So
Okay.
has a wonderful acronym, how to keep your immune system in good working conditions. So can you please repeat that? And you also said that you'll elaborate on how to manage stress. So probably you can enlighten us on that as well.
Yeah, it is a secret which I'm going to tell you. So it is an open secret. So everybody knows how to improve your immune system, but the thing is, it is very simple and very difficult in our minds to do it. So actually it goes like SAVED, SAVED. So S stands for sleep well. So sleep, I'll just reiterate that sleep is a time when your immune system gets its energy from. The daytime, the physical and mental energies take up all the energies, but the night, the growth and the immune system is where the energies go. So taking good amount of sleep is good for your immune system. Then A is avoiding stress. So avoiding stress, obviously, be happy with friends and family, take a vacation if required. So these are actually shown to help to boost your immune system. You feel good. Then meditation, try to organize your work, simple things like organize your work. I'm just going into philosophical point of view, but having simple needs, trying to simplify your life, trying to not do too many things at one time, taking things one at a time, spending quality time with friends and family. It is especially not in this season. Obviously, we would like to maintain social distancing, but still spending quality time with friends and family, taking time off for yourself, trying to get into some sort of hobby for yourself. Is especially some people find painting or writing or writing poetry. Find the feel good factor that is good for your immune system. So good sleep, avoiding stress. V is vaccination. We talked about vaccination, how to promote your immunity. So there are a lot of controversy, especially in Western world, about vaccination, how it may cause a lot of problems. But now people are realizing the importance of vaccination. So vaccination is very, very essential to boost your immunity. The E is exercise, a very thing which most of us, even I am guilty, that we don't exercise enough. We give a lot of excuses, but exercise is one thing which improves your blood circulation and improves the feeling of well-being. A lot of autoimmune diseases also we ask patients to exercise, but it's found to reduce their inflammation. So exercise, the standard recommendations, obviously 30 minutes for at least 5 days a week. This is the minimum. 2 days of slightly higher exercise for at least 60 to 75 minutes per week. So these are the recommendation. That is the E. So SAVE. And D is diet. So diet, we had a discussion most often, what to eat, what not to eat, how to improve your immune system. Again, there's no shortcut. There are no quick fixes. Eating one thing will not just boost your immune system. Eating well, eating a balanced diet, avoiding high salt, avoiding eating more of God-made, that is natural foods rather than man-made or processed foods, and taking vitamin D, foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants. These are known to benefit your immune system. So this is their acronym, SAVED. So you'll be saved with these measures.
So that's an excellent acronym, Dr. Vikram. I should also remember that. So in fact, we had made if you go to our YouTube channel, we had made a video and we have provided several links of various things that you can do to reduce stress. That includes free meditation apps, free exercises apps, then apps to help organize your day. Then there are some apps to help you learn a new skill. For example, something that you've been putting off for a long time. Maybe if you have a guitar at home, you can learn to play the guitar during that time, and that will become a hobby. So all of these things have been shown to help reduce stress. And as Dr. Vikram pointed out, the A in SAVED, A is for avoid stress. So since you pointed out, Dr. Vikram, that V stands for vaccine. In SAVED, V stands for vaccine. So Rajeshwari is asking that I'm not sure whether she has rheumatoid arthritis or not, but she's asking that should we take any vaccine in the present situation?
Yeah, thank you, Rajeshwari, for that question. The recommendations for vaccine as of now is all patients above 65 years, because we know as we age, our immune system also ages. It is not as effective as in the younger age in response to infection. It cannot respond as well to an infection compared to younger age. So elderly are more susceptible to infection. That is why you see in Western countries where there is high mortality, like in US or Italy, the proportion of elderly is high compared to where in India, probably the proportion of elderly is not that high. We have a relatively younger population. That is probably one of the reasons why probably we did not had that higher mortality compared to the Western countries. So any elderly above 65 years, it is recommended influenza and pneumococcal vaccine, especially in these patients. Younger patients, though, who have conditions which can probably suppress your immunity, like uncontrolled diabetes, chronic kidney disease, any chronic condition, any chronic disease, patients with autoimmune diseases, patients on immunosuppressive medications which slightly suppress your immune system, these patients would definitely be recommended to take vaccine. Healthcare providers like you and me who are exposed to infections, again, these would be another subset where taking vaccination in adults would be recommended. Other than this, usually vaccines are not recommended for all the general population. I'm talking about influenza and pneumococcal vaccination. But coming to COVID, if you're talking about COVID, still the vaccine is still a long way away. And probably we would be recommending vaccine that time, obviously, because this virus is most likely to keep coming back again and again, year after year or periodically. That is where to increase the immunity, we would probably be advising vaccination, but it is still far away. It is not still available, and still trials are going on.
So correct. So influenza and pneumococcal vaccines are available, and as Dr. Vikram pointed out, any patient with chronic condition, which includes rheumatoid arthritis, if any patient has a chronic condition, they don't need to take the vaccine. With respect to COVID, so one of the risk factor to develop serious complications due to COVID has been found to be obesity. So there are some questions being asked about diet with respect to weight loss. So Nishad, can you answer that? Rajeshwari is asking, what is the diet that we are supposed to follow? Some comments, at least.
Okay. Yeah. So regarding to obesity, so major thing you need to do is you need to cut down your calories and increase your energy expenditure. Okay, depending on your rheumatoid condition or not, joint pain, etc. So you need to find an activity which you enjoy, and you can do it easily. It's not, I'm not. I mean, like doctor said, you're not expected to go to gym or a particular place. You can even start walking or play with your kids, or I mean, they enjoy a sport which you like, like a leisure activity. It can also be like that. Okay, so or you can even walk for at least within 20 minutes, at least 3 to 4 times a week. Okay, you can start with that. Okay, and then later build up on the time or whatever. Okay, so first thing, you need to start your day with a cup of water. So hydration is very important. Okay, so and then if you're if you're starting your day with a cup of coffee or tea, so I would suggest you green tea is better. Okay, so first thing is it has polyphenols, it has immunity properties as well, anti-inflammatory properties as well. Because obesity is also an pro-inflammatory condition. It's caused by the inflammation in the body. So it's very important that you reduce the inflammation in the body. Okay, so and then don't add too much sugar or honey to your green tea. So keep it for minimum. So and then gradually cut it down if you are able to. Okay, so and then after that, start to eat the hearty breakfast. Okay, so I'm not asking you to cut down on rice completely. So first thing you need to make sure that in breakfast and dinner you focus on whole grains, like it can be chapatis or pulkas or wheat dosa or whatever you like. Even muesli and milk is also a good choice. Okay, so with that, a good protein source, it can be plant source, and I'm not sure you're a vegetarian or not. Okay, so even dal or paneer, a cup of curd is also good, or a cup of milk is also good. Okay, so if you go to non-vegetarian sources, boiled egg along with the yellow. Okay, yellow also has a lot of immunity boosting and anti-inflammatory properties and vitamins. So you can you don't have to discard the yellow all the time, but keep a minimum limit of eggs per week. Okay, so and then snack on fruit in between. Okay, so keep your meat short and snack in between. Okay, so and for immunity boosting or anti-inflammatory properties, go for any kind of fruit because all fruits are important. Okay, so immunity, you need to concentrate on citrus fruits, okay? So, and then guava, oranges, grapefruit, okay, raw mango or mango as well, it's actually vitamin A, okay? So, and then papaya also. Okay. So, and then for lunch, keep it a combination. Okay, you can include rice in your diet. For that you need to supplement it with a lot of fiber, be it in the form of legumes like chana, rajma, or sprouts, or even vegetables like green leafy vegetables or any kind of vegetable you like. But keep your potato intake to a minimum. Okay, so and then in non-vegetarian also you can add chicken, chicken like it should be the size of consumption should be the size of your palm. Okay, so and then a cup of curd is very important because it's a good probiotic. Okay, so it keeps your gut healthy. So we need gut bacteria, which is a gut friendly bacteria living inside us. They also provide us immunity. So we need probiotics or prebiotics in our diet as well. Okay, so and then salad. So vegetable intake should be a little higher. Okay, so make sure instead of having salad or curd separately, you can make a raita out of it. It doesn't have to be complicated, or you can even add curd to your food preparations as well. Okay, so or else buttermilk or paneer is also a good choice. Okay, so and then later on you can snack on nuts like like flax seeds as it was mentioned, sunflower seeds, almonds, walnuts are Indian items like peanuts also a good choice. Okay, so but keep it to a minimum. Like 2 tablespoons. Just
Okay.
30 grams is the limit. Okay, so too much of a good thing is also bad. Okay, so and then in between you can also have a cup of green tea with turmeric in it. Turmeric is found to have a lot of antimicrobial properties as well. Okay, so and then later on, keep a little distance. I mean, a gap between dinner and your bedtime. So at least 2 to 3 hours, before you sleep, have your dinner. So and I'm not asking you to eat before sunset or even like that. Okay, so make sure at least you give some time between your dinner and your bedtime. Okay, so and then dinner, same thing as lunch, but make sure you're having fiber-rich foods in your diet. In your dinner, and keep it light. Okay, not as hearty as your breakfast because breakfast is the main thing, so it should be biggest, and so lunch should be a little smaller, and then dinner should be the smallest. Okay, so and then before going to bed, a cup of milk will do. Okay, so for more details, you need to contact the dietitian because you have the general stuff. Okay, so I don't know exactly how many calories you need and etc. There are a lot of other factors which go into planning a diet. These are just the simple ones. It's not just to for obesity. You can even use to boost your immunity as well. Okay, so I would like to add on to the vitamin C supplement question. Okay, so yeah, there's no harm in taking supplements, but natural food sources are better. Okay, so if you are willing to include supplements in your diet or in your medication list, you can, but make sure you stick to a limit of 200,000 mg per day. Because in some cases, it's found to cause diarrhea or renal calcula or kidney stones in some cases. So it's better to be below that level. Okay, so and then being water soluble, it can be passed out, but in some cases, toxicity has found to cause bleeding. So I hope that.
Okay. Thanks, Nishat, for that summary. But as Nishat was saying, every diet has to be individualized to the individual patient. So you have to consult a dietitian. In fact, research has shown that if you meet a dietitian on a regular basis, if you follow up with a dietitian on a regular basis, you have a high likelihood of losing weight and making sure that you do not regain the weight. And in fact, one common myth is that I will eat lots and then I will go walking and do exercise. So that does not work out. Weight loss is 90% diet and only 5 to 10% exercise. So that's another important thing. Rajeshwari has also, now I remember Rajeshwari, she gave me a few hints as to who she is. So Rajeshwari, nice that you were able to join us during this Facebook live. You do need to take vaccination. That was your doubt. So if usually I recommend vaccination to all of my patients. In case I've not recommended for you, I'm really sorry. And we can give you vaccination. Because we are talking about vaccine, so there is Rupa. Rupa is a specialist rheumatology nurse in Delhi. So her question is to Vikram. She's asking, how will pneumococcal vaccine or other vaccine prevent the seriousness of COVID-19?
Yeah, thank you, Rupa, for the question. Actually, pneumococcal vaccine and influenza vaccine is to prevent influenza and pneumococcal respectively. So it will not prevent COVID-19. That was in the context of boosting or improving your immune system, which I advised vaccination. Obviously, the vaccine for COVID is not yet available and will be available probably in 6 months to a year from now. But it will not help you from COVID-19, the influenza and pneumococcal, definitely not.
So in fact, there are some other viral infections, for example, influenza itself. So in influenza infections also, vaccinated against pneumococcal has been shown to be a bit helpful. But with respect to COVID-19, it is not helpful. But the guidelines released by the international societies also say the same thing, that though vaccinations are not going to help you against COVID-19, if possible, get yourself vaccinated, because at least there is one less infection to one. That's
Agree. Absolutely, absolutely.
So there is a shout out to Dr. Vikram by Radhesham. He says, very nice video.
Thank you, boss.
And
Radhesham is a consultant physician in Jaipur, a very close friend of mine. So good to hear from him.
So Shashidhar wants to, I don't know whether you answered this question, Vikram. So he's asking, being happy and stress-free, is that important for immunity? So I think you answered that question.
Yes. It is important because stress, obviously, we know the stress hormones, cortisol is produced, and that actually dampens the inflammation, the immunity. So it prolonged stress, especially stress for a short period of time, may be helpful for us because it helps us to tide over the crisis. But a prolonged stress, a continuous stress is not good. That actually dampens immunity.
So, and I just wanted to point out again to Shashi that we had discussed previously that there is a video in our Optima YouTube channel where we have told how to handle stress and how to reduce stress, especially because this is a very stressful period. So there are some questions with respect to which vaccines have to be taken. So I think Dr. Vikram pointed out that mainly the pneumococcal and the influenza vaccine is what we are recommending. And if any of you want to take the vaccine or you need a prescription, you can of course call us at 99800946000. We are active. We are functioning between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. daily, except on Sunday. And we will help you with respect to any of your doubts or any of your medication needs or even any of your vaccination needs. So we have 5 more minutes. Nishat, if you want, anybody else wants to ask any doubts, or Nishat, do you have anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, so as Doctor said, there's one more thing I would like to add on. Okay, so all these things don't necessarily give you a reason to ignore hand washing, hand hygiene, and personal hygiene and social distancing. That doesn't mean you need to. By doing all this, you can ignore that. Okay, that is like the main, like the surefire way to prevent the infection. Other things are just precautions we're taking. Okay, so please don't ignore that. And then the second thing I want to add on to that list is smoking. Okay, so there are already a lot of reasons to stop smoking. Okay, so it should not be stressed even more. But at this situation where we're talking about immunity, chronic smokers have found to have lower immune resistance, or immune function has been decreased or suppressed in chronic smokers. Not just smokers, even the passive smokers, the ones around you, are also at risk. So make sure you reduce smoking or quit as soon as possible. So yeah.
That's a very important point, Nishat. Thank you for bringing up that we had forgotten. So smokers are at increased risk of developing, not only they are at increased risk of developing infections, as Nishat pointed out, they're also at increased risk of developing rheumatoid arthritis. So
yes.
rheumatoid arthritis, there are 2 reasons why you should not smoke. One is because it will worsen your disease and because you don't want to develop infections as well. And
just to add to that, Sharath, even alcoholism, chronic alcoholism also may not be good for your immunity. So smoking, thank you, Nishad, for pointing that out. Smoking and alcoholism, yes.
Yes. So in fact, in the this thing in the YouTube video, the details, if you go to the details, we have added websites to which you can go to, which can help you quit smoking. So please do that. And smoking is also one of the factors which has been found to predispose to serious COVID-19 infection. So that is why you should definitely stay away from smoking. So since there don't appear to be any more questions, I think we can conclude the session at this point. So I thank Dr. Vikram for enlightening us so nicely about immunity and the fact that it is a well-rounded, we have to have a well-rounded diet and well-rounded schedule saved. We have to be saved by SAVED, right? So I will ask you to repeat that acronym again, so because it's so nice.
Yeah, just for the people who have not heard it before, S stands for sleep, so good sleep, adequate sleep. A stands for avoiding stress. V stands for vaccination. E stands for exercise, and D stands for diet. So this is saved to keep your immune system in good health.
Excellent. So I would also like to thank Nishad for helping to enlighten us about various aspects related to diet and how you can combine you can exchange, like it's not like you have to take a particular thing only if you need a vitamin. Also, the point that she made that natural sources of vitamin are much better than supplements, I agree with her completely. So just because you're not able to take lemon doesn't mean that you cannot get vitamin C. There are several other sources, and you can consult a good dietitian. And of course, Ms. Nishad is a very good dietitian. You can consult her as well. So she also pointed out what are the broad things that you can do to help reduce your weight as well. So I would like to thank everyone who joined in, who asked questions. And I would like to thank one more time, Dr. Vikram and Nishad. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Sharath.
Bye.